welcome to Hedgehog Hollow. Today I'm going to be talking about Turnabout Stamps. Now I did a video probably 18 months ago now about Turnabout Stamps and a jig that I created myself. Now I still have that jig and you can check out the video in that top right hand corner. And the other day I posted on Instagram that I had bought last month's Concord and 9th release, which was all about turnabouts. It was their turnabout month. And lots of you said, please do another video showing us the new turnabout jig and how to use turnabouts again. So here I am, I'm going to do a video and I wanted to show you some of the new releases they have about turnabouts. They have turnabout stencils. I'm going to talk again about turnabout stamps. I'm going to show you my jig again and I'm going to show you the new Concord and 9th jig as well. So lots of things to show you. So I have the whole release here, or I think I picked out the whole release. So a turnabout stamp is all about symmetry. Now they come in various sizes. This was kind of how they started as a 6x6 stamp. And the idea is that you stamp it once, you rotate your image, not the stamp. You stamp it again and then it builds up more of an image, and you can stamp it 1, 2, 3 or 4 times until you build up a thicker image. And I think on the back of some of these it shows you. So you can see on this one here, it shows you this is stamped once, stamped twice, stamped 3 times, stamped 4 times. So you can do it as many or as few times as you would like. Some images work better with more, some work with less. But really what drew me to this particular release was this new marble turnabout stamp. And I really like this one. So again, you can build this up, you can stamp it once, twice, 3 or 4 times, and it builds up this marble pattern. And today we're actually going to work with the cactus one. It's called To The Point, and we're looking outside, it's snowing heavily, and I decided to pick out some really fun colours. So I picked out this arrangement of distress oxide. So I have my twisted citron, some picked raspberry, some wilted violet and some carved pumpkin. So I'm really going for some summer colours. I'm coming back from Phoenix. I've come back with a horrible cold, but I thought it might remind me of some warm weather. Now they have lots and lots of turnabouts. You can see here this was the turnabout month. They've also released turnabout stencils. So exactly the same thing. I'm going to pull these out the sleeve here and I'll link up these sleeves because I found these really nice 6x6 sleeves, which I know a lot of us struggle to find something to store either our 6x6 stencils or those background stamps in, but these are perfect and they're nice and thick too. But again, you stencil, you turn it, you stencil, you turn it, you stencil, you turn it. So you get the idea. And this is the same. This is a turnabout stencil. So you build up your same image in the same way. It's just with a stencil rather than a stamp. So let's pop this in and I can start talking about how these work, she says, if she can get back in. So I'll pop all of these to the side and we're going to make a project using turnabout stencils. So I have my homemade jig. This is the jig I made last year. This was a 6x6 piece of cardstock. It has the cross down the middle. And then I made myself arrows so that I always knew which way to turn my turnabout because I don't know about you, but I would get halfway through stamping and I'm like, oh, do I turn it this way or do I turn it this way? So that way I always knew which way I was turning my turnabout. And these lines were important because they told me how to line up my turnabout. And then I laminated it so that I could just wipe off any ink. And this in the middle here is the temporary adhesive that we're going to use to hold down our cardstock. So that's one. But now Concord and 9th have released a turnabout jig. So you can see it's very similar to the piece of cardstock that I use. It has these score lines down the middle there. They're kind of dotted. You can just about see them. And it also has these markings, which is where you put your cardstock. So you don't now have to use square cardstock. You can use a regular card front sized piece of cardstock as well. It shows you where to line those up as well. So that's another option for you. So you can have it landscape or portrait, however you want it to be, and then it'll be nicely centered up. There's the larger size jig and there's a smaller size jig. So if you have those smaller turnabouts, like the spirograph one here, this would work perfectly in that smaller turnabout jig. Now the other thing you're going to find is that in these newer turnabouts, you also get a turnabout guide. You don't have to now line it up on the back of the paper anymore. You now have a little acetate overlay, and you can buy a pack that has all the acetate overlays for all the previous turnabouts. It's really inexpensive and the pack comes with all the acetate overlays. So if you have a few turnabouts. Your friend has a few. Hannah and I bought one, and between us we worked out that actually it worked out really well. Between us we actually only had one stamp that we both had, and we just shared the pack between us, so that worked out perfectly. So that's what we're going to be using now to line up our stamps, so that works really well too. So you don't have to mark up your stamps anymore. We used to have to overlay these onto our packaging and get a Sharpie out and do all of that. You don't have to do that anymore. Everything is done for you, which is awesome. The other thing with turnabout images is you usually get a few add-on images around the edge. So here we have a few extra cactuses or cacti, and then you also have some sentiments to it as well. So let's get stamping. You're going to find that working with a stamp platform, whether that's a Tim Holtz platform, a Misty, whatever your preferred platform is going to be a bonus. And for this one, I'm not using a sticky sheet. Shock horror, Greg. I am not using a sticky sheet. You're actually going to just want the foam in there. And so I'm actually going to stamp 2 for this one. I have some grey cardstock, and I'm going to use some white, but this one's actually cut down a little bit too much. So I'm going to grab a larger sheet. Just usual Nina Solar White that I have cut down to card front size. First of all, we're going to line up our stamp though, and I'm going to do that using the Turnabout jig. So I pop my jig into my Misty like this, and I pop my line up sheet. So what I do is I've lined this up. I'm going to tilt this up. So my center rotation point on my line up grid and on my turnabout jig are lined up perfectly, and I just put the 2 on top like so. I'm then going to take my stamp out of its packaging, and be careful because these are larger stamps. You don't want to tear your stamp, so just do a little bit at a time. I like to work circular. You'll see it comes away fairly easily. And then you're going to line your stamp up on your line up sheet. Really easy. See how easy that is? Make sure it's still lined up to your grid on the bottom. So far, super simple. Close the lid of your platform. As I say, you can do any platform. It doesn't have to be a Misty. And then peel away that line up grid. You're all lined up, ready to go. One thing I should have mentioned is you want your turnabout jig to be in your corner so that you know that that's where it's going to be every single time you do your rotation. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a Sharpie again, and I usually have one in here. That's a non-permanent. That's no good to us. Here's a Sharpie out of my nice little pot. And again, I'm going to just draw on some arrows for my direction, because I will forget what direction I go in. It's a little thing, but I think you'll find it really useful if you draw yourself on some arrows. And now I'm going to start lining up my cardstock. And I'm going to do my homemade jig first. Actually, we'll just use the turnabout jig, and I'm just going to stamp it twice. It's going to be way, way easier. So, how do you stick your cardstock down? I like using a temporary adhesive. So I just put a little bit down like that. And now I'm going to take my cardstock. I'm actually going to show you the magic of oxides first. And so I line my cardstock up. There's little lines on here, impressed in, that make lining it up a cinch. She says, as long as your cardstock is cut to the right size, that would be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. They're the lines you're looking for. And that's how you're going to get your rotation perfect. So you're going to stick that down, and you don't want your cardstock to move during this process. So you really want to make sure it's firmly down. So I like using the Tombow, they call it removable adhesive. I'll make sure all the links, of course, to everything, as always, are in the description. And any coupons we have for you, we'll put those in the description too. But this makes it really easy. And what you can see is if I pick this up, that's not going to go anywhere. Now, of course, the other thing you could do, which I hadn't thought of till now, and I'm going to get Greg to pass me some sticky sheet out of my top drawer, there over there, on the right-hand side are sticky sheets, yeah. So we could just, and I know lots of you have bought sticky sheets, so this is even easier. I hadn't thought of this. And in my top drawer over here, so this is what I used to have. So that's what I used to do. And then all I used to do was take an adhesive rubber afterwards. And you can see that just rubs away. Adhesive rubber, or eraser I should say over here, rubs away. And then what we can now do, and you can cut sticky sheets. Lots of you ask me, what do I do if I need a different size? So I'm just going to cut myself probably 2 by 3 inches. I mean, it does not have to be exact at all. I'm going to pop that to the side. This is going to be so much easier. And these are completely repurposable, so I can take these on and off as many times as I like. And if you ordered the smaller sheets, I know some of you ordered them when they were out of stock and we could only get the small sheets that fit in the sidekick, they would be the perfect size for this. So you can just take a little bit of sticky sheet, pop that here, see how that's going to stick down. And then again, we can line up our cardstock. Your cardstock to fit in this piece either wants to be 6 by 6 to fill the whole thing, or you want it to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so you can see now my cardstock's really stuck down. That's never going to go anywhere. And I'll show you at the end how easy it is to peel off. So let's get started with our colours. So I'm going to start with some carved pumpkin. So this is our first stamping. And you're going to ink up your whole stamp. I feel like I'm stamping to a rhythm today. And so what you're going to do is flip your lid over, give it a nice press. And one thing I'm going to say is if you're stamping with oxides on a dark cardstock is stamp it twice. Because the first time you're going to find that a lot of that dye sinks into the cardstock and only some of that pigment is going to stick on top. Whereas the second time you do it, more of that pigment will sit on top of your cardstock. So you'll get an even more popped image, whatever the correct English is. So you can see there, you get much more of a pop image on there. Then we're going to give our stamped image a nice little wipe off, and I like using my tidy towel. If you want to know the stamp cleaners I use, you can just use that link in the top right hand corner. There's a 2-minute tip all about my little tidy towel, stamp cleaner, how I store it, all those things. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a rotation. So we're going to turn it, and again you're going to pop it into that corner just like that, and you're going to go to your second colour. I don't necessarily have an order that I'm going to stamp my colours in. You can switch colours backwards and forwards if you're wanting to do some kind of colour pattern, or you can just rotate through your colours. And often on the back of the packaging it will show you how those colours layer together, and that might give you ideas of how you want it to look. So the first time, as I say, a lot of that dye will sink into your paper, and then the second time a lot more of that pigment will sit on top. And you'll notice I'm not cleaning around the edges of my image. I'll do that at the end, because this is designed to fill a whole 6 by 6 panel, so it's not going to stamp on top of each other. So there's my second stamp. And then again, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do a rotation. I have my arrows, so I know what direction I'm going in. And I have to say, if I didn't have those arrows, I'd be talking to you and I probably would end up stamping pink over my purple and thinking, oh, whoops, I need to do that one again. And then Greg would have to reshoot it. So I really do recommend putting those on top. I love this pink. It's such a fun pink. So this is my picked raspberry. Put this one on here. So we'll stamp this one down. Love how this is building up. And I'm going to do the same on white too, so you can really see the difference. And so playing around with coloured cardstocks is fun as well. It's just another way to use it. And then we'll mount them up into really quick and easy cards. So there's my pink. And then again, we're going to do the same. We're going to do a turn, pop it back into that corner. And that's why I'm saying it's important to use a corner. It doesn't matter whether it's the top corner or the bottom corner, but you want to use a corner. And also you'll notice how easy has this been to clean off. Just give it a good wipe. And then we're going to go in with our Twisted Citron. The other thing is about dark cardstock is if you have a little bit of the previous colour on your stamp, it's way more forgiving, which particularly when you're doing turnabouts, I love. Did I stamp my pink twice, Greg? He says yes. I guess I probably did then. See, that's why I have to have arrows on there, because I can't remember if I stamped my pink twice.
Of course, if you're not happy with the colour on the pink, you can always just go back and do it again.
Yeah, so I could rotate this back 90 degrees. In fact, I might do that because I don't like my pink. It doesn't look like I've stamped it twice. But I do love that lime green. Look how cool that is. So I can now rotate back against my arrows 90 degrees. Like this. Give my stamp a clean off. Go back to my pink. Oh, do be quiet, paper trimmer. Thank you, Greg. And so I can re-ink with my pink ink. There's a tongue twister. And so I can add in more pink. That's better. So you see that? Isn't that a fun pattern that I've created? Whee. Isn't that fun? And my oxides really pop on that dark grey cardstock. So this is the Lawn Fawn dark grey. I think it's called Narwhal. They have awesome colours for their cardstock too. And then what you can do, of course, is add a central stamp. So on that stamp options here, there were central things that you can add in here. So if I wanted to, I can add things. I'm going to end up with a die cut across the middle, so it's going to be fine for what I want to do. And then when I'm done, all I do is I just lift up my sticky sheets on there. Well, that's fine. We just peel that away. And this sticky sheet is reusable. So I can just take my release sheet, I can put it back on there, put it back in my packet. I mean, I'll just stick it on the edge of the table and it's going to sit there for a while. But we're going to use it again anyway because we want to do a second one on white. So I'm going to just pop that down. I love the fact, why didn't I think of sticky sheets before? Sticky sheets are awesome for all sorts of things. I'm going to do another 2-minute tip. Lots of you ask me, how do you use them with stencils? So I'm going to do that as a 2-minute tip. So I'm now going to go in. We're going to start with pink. Just because I happen to have it on my stamp. And you all know I'm a lazy stamper, so I'm just going to stick with what's there. Now on white, I don't necessarily have to double stamp unless I really want to. And that one I do, just a little bit that's patchy. But you can see here, it's going to look totally different just by being on different colours of cardstock. And again, that's something I love. It's a great way to stretch your supplies. Switch up the colour of your cardstock. Use one layer of your turnabout that's for heat embossing. Just do something a little bit different. So now we're going to turn. And I'm going to do it the same, or at least I'm going to try to remember the same order. You can also see this is really, really easy, and people are going to think, wow, how did she do that? How did she get all of these different colours in here just... And all you've done is you've just stamped the same image 4 times really easily, because all you've had to do is just use your little jig. And I will show you my little homemade jig too, because you can totally make these yourself at home. As I say, I did at the beginning link out that video for you as well, and it will be in the blog post that's linked in the description. So if you want to find out how to make your own homemade jig, it's super easy. It's just a piece of 6x6 cardstock. You put a Sharpie line across through it. I laminated it, as I say, and I put my arrows on it. That's it. And then you just line it up in exactly the same way. Where's my rose not coming out? And then I've used that again and again. That jig has lasted me 18 months until Concord and 9th have come out with one. So you can totally make your own at home. And you can just rinse it off, use it as many times as you would like. I don't know what colour I used first, but we'll go with the next colour. Do you know what I used first, Greg? Was it orange?
Can't remember.
Well, it's going to be orange next. So let's go with some orange. Don't think I've rotated it yet. The other great thing about Stamp Platform is I can offer it up, see if I've rotated it. If I haven't, I am not committed to anything. So we're going to rotate. Perfect. And we're going to open. Awesome. And then we're going to rotate. And yep, we have some gaps, which is our last one. And then what colour have I done? Purple. And again, we're going to stamp. And so you might notice there are also my blending foams on the bottom. All I do is have little Velcro dots on the bottom and my blending foams live there. Works for me perfectly. Means that sometimes I don't always get new ones out and I might reuse them occasionally. I'm actually in the process of switching from the Ranger ones to the Nuvo ones, so every time I see a Ranger one I pull that off and I pop one of the new Nuvo ones on. There we go. How cute is that? Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. So you can see just by switching out the colours of cardstock, you have two very, very different cards. So I'm just going to wipe down my stamp, and then this, again, I'm going to peel this off. I'll peel my sticky sheet off the back in a second. But what I'm going to do is take my tidy towel. That arrow's not going to wipe off because it's Sharpie. And you can see it's oxide, so it's water-based. And that just wipes off too. So that's really easy cleanup. You could use a little bit of stamp cleaner. If you used archival, just use a little bit of archival cleaner on there. Really, really easy. And then we're going to mount them up into some really fun card projects. So stay tuned, 1 second. So these are going to be really quick and easy mountings because all the work really was in our turnabout. So the first thing we need to do is trim down our panels. And I wanted to do this on film rather than do it in my prep, because one thing we want to remember is we do have that centerpiece. As I say, there are stamps that fill that centerpiece if you wanted to. But we're going to put some dies over it. But remember, that is in our center. So depending on how you want to do your mounting, you're going to want to remember to trim evenly off both sides. And for my smallest layer, I want it to be 3 3/4. So I'm going to trim 1/4 of an inch off of both sides. And then I'm going to trim 1/4 off the top and 1/4 off the bottom so that I get to my 5 inches. So it's going to be 5 inches by 3 3/4. And then I'm going to do the same on the other one. So I'm going to go 4 inches. Swizzle it around, 3 3/4, and then 5 1/4, swizzle it around, 5 inches. And then everything else I have prepped, and I really haven't done anything too complicated. So I have card bases here ready to go, and I've scored them at that 5.5 inch mark using my Scor-Buddy. I've scored them on both sides, so I'm just going to fold them in half. And I am going to firm that up using my bone folder. I'm going to fold that. And I'm going to firm it up using my bone folder. And then I'm going to use some matting cardstock. So for my darker one, I'm going to use some nice silver glitter paper, really to give it some of that pep. And use some funky tape runner to stick it down. So, and of course my tape runner runs out halfway through, but I do always keep some spares in my drawer. This is the new Nuvo tape runner, and if you watch my videos regularly, you'll know I always mat with my card base open because it allows me to mat firmly down like this. Even with a nice firm fold using a Scor-Buddy, still has a little bit of bounce in it, and then I get a nice even matting layer. And I did do a review recently on the different scoreboards, so we'll put that in the top right hand corner. You can check that out, the difference, and why I always use a Scor-Buddy or any scoreboard. I mean, you may prefer a different one. And then you want to line up, when you're doing this, I always line up 3 edges, and that means your other one will automatically be perfect. And these layers are going to be 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So we're making 2 cards at once here. We're super easy. So then I'm going to take my next one and I'm going to glue that down. Again, using my Nuvo tape runner here. And some of these have a right way up, some don't. This one does. So again, I'm going to make sure 3 edges are even. Stick that one down. Now on this one, because I'm just gluing onto glitter paper, I'm going to use a liquid adhesive. And I don't seem to have any deluxe adhesive in my drawer. Now this is diabolical. So I'm going to use my Gina Connect glue, which is also a great adhesive. And if you watch my videos all the time, you'll know I'm a dotty gluer. I don't know why. I picked this up years ago. It's a really nice technique. It prevents ooze because you just use small dots. And you also seem to get a really nice adhesion on there as well. So I just kind of put lots of dots and that works perfectly. Let's make sure we put this the right way up. Again, 3, press it down, all the way down like this. Nice press. And then I've die cut pretty much the same for both cards again. So I've die cut the cactus. This is the coordinating die set that goes with this turnabout. I've die cut the heart. This is the tonic green glitter paper, pink glitter paper, and then I die cut a black howdy for the white card, and then I die cut the silver howdy for the dark grey card. So they're going to pop out really nicely. So we're going to layer these up onto there. And I'm going to use some foam for my cacti. I have this ready to go. Now, unlike Greg, I use the edges of my foam. He has a habit of sticking them on the edge. He saw me do that and thought that was a great idea, but he kind of forgets to actually use the edges, and then they stick there forevermore and you can't get them off again. So I'm going to stick my cacti on somewhere in the middle. And so you can see how easy is this to work on 2 cards at once. Then I'm going to grab this piece. This could be, Greg might get his just desserts moment. No? Alright. Like this. And so I'm just going to trim some little bits to go on the back. It needs to be even smaller. Let's try this end. So you can see I'm using the Tim Holtz non-stick scissors, and they will cut through your foam like butter. It will not stick to your foam. I have cut this down to like slithery slithers of foam, and you will never stick. And so I'm going to just stick my hearts on, probably in different places for each one, just because, like so. So I've stuck my hearts on. Now is my top tip about sticking on really thin sentiments. I mean, these are super, super thin. Look how fine that sentiment is. Now, this is how you do it. You don't get any ooze, you don't get any stickiness. This is the best tip, and this was a great discovery. So you take the Nuvo glue pen. This is the really thick one. This is the Nuvo Large, they call it. Again, you know we'll link everything up in the description. And of course, we'll add your exclusive Hedgehog Hollow Tonic code for the month. All you do is you go along, just dab along like this. It goes on blue. It will dry clear, I promise. And it's great for everything because it starts drying tacky, so you can put like the gold leaf and stuff on, and you can put glitter and things on. But just make sure you have your adhesive on, just like that. And then all we're going to do, this is the black one, and it will dry on the glitter, which is another amazing thing. And it will dry over multiple levels. I'm going to stick that one down. each down. Then I'm going to pick this one up. And I'm going to put this howdy down. And it is perfect. So there we are. In a couple of minutes, I have mounted 2 cards. Super simple, but aren't they just so much fun? Lots and lots of sparkle, and I just love how they came out. Thank you so much for joining me here at Hedgehog Hollow. I hope you found some of those turnabout tips useful and some other handy hints in there as well. Do give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. As I say, check out the links in the video description below. We'll also add some exclusive Hedgehog Hollow coupons. And if you don't already subscribe to our newsletter, we send one out every Friday. It has tons of crafting coupons, sales, all those fun things in as well as a wrap up of what's been going on at the Hedgehog Hollow too. So you can check that out. Sign up at thehedgehoghollow.com. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notifications of all of our upcoming videos as well. And I'll see you again very soon. Happy stamping, everyone. Bye.